It's become a bit of a dirty word, slash. The waste trimmings from forestry, a lot of which ended up piled high on Tairāwhiti's beaches after Cyclone Gabrielle. In the far north, near the small community of Te Kā'au, producer Sally Round found a plan being hatched to turn that waste into something good for the climate, the soil and farm animals.
You got a copy, Dan? Can you reach those ones on your left-hand side, coming through that gut there, just up on the left-hand side here?
Yeah.
Another tree being felled in Pārengarenga Incorporation's A Block. It's part of a Māori-owned forestry and farm operation with about 4,000 shareholders on the narrow Opori Peninsula, Te Hiku o Te Ika, or Tail of the Fish. Here, pine trees, sheep and beef cattle are being farmed on land sandwiched between the Pacific Ocean and the Tasman Sea, bordered by 90 Mile Beach to the west and the ecologically rich Pārengarenga Harbour to the east. Trees have been a huge part of this area's history and development. Kauri forest once covered the region thousands of years ago, before being swallowed up by sand and swamp. In the 1960s, exotic pines were pitched as the answer to halt the marching sands being blown in from the west, smothering roads and farmland. This National Film Unit production from the 1960s, with a very perky music track, shows a tractor pulling workers on trailers through the dunes, planting grasses to hold the loose sand in preparation for the pine seedlings.
Each year, a protective belt of marram grass about 15 chains wide is planted. The encroaching sands are halted and consolidated.
It was a government afforestation program, and Pārengarenga landowners got involved too, leasing their land to the Crown for Pinus radiata. This was amid some doubt about the economics of forestry in such a barren, isolated area, but the trees grew wood that was dense and strong.
The next step is to make the sandy wastes productive. To supply the only deficiency, nitrogen, fast-growing tree lupin sown where the clumps of grass give protection. Within only 5 years, the lupin gives a complete coverage of the dunes. Now trees can be planted. Most of the country can be covered by crawler tractors planting 10,000 trees, a forest a day. The trees grow well in sand, and with 1,500 acres planted every year, the machines have altered the whole pattern of sand control. The Forestry Department has not only freed coastal farmland of encroachment, but has grown a valuable crop of millable trees.
Nearly 50 years after signing the lease, the Pārengarenga Incorporation shareholders gained ownership of the forest in 2016 and have since acquired forestry rights to another block to the east, making over 10,000 hectares of forest under their incorporation. They've invested in machines and trained up 23 staff to thin and harvest the trees.
My name is Dan Henderson, Operations Manager for the forest here in Pārengarenga Incorporation. We started harvesting here, clearfell harvesting of the big wood back in January of 23. So we've done just over 12 to 18 months now.
Wow, and we've just come over the brow of the hill and there are the blocks that have been harvested, and I guess those trees in the distance are due for harvesting in the next, how long will it take?
We've planned it so that we've got a 30-year rotation. A lot of our staff here are young. When I say young, they're mid-20s, late 20s, early 30s, and they've got 30 years work in front of them if they look after it. So you don't get that with any forestry operation of any sort of structure nowadays. These guys, for the best part, most of them live 5 minutes from the gate, you know.
Would any of them be shareholders?
Yep, most of them are shareholders.
Most of them are?
Yep.
Dan takes me to meet one of the workers, Levi, who's a loader operator. Are you from here?
Yeah, I'm from Te Kā'au. Yeah.
Have you always worked in forestry?
No, I used to work out in the Whangarei ports in Marsden Point. loading and unloading all the log ships and freight ships and everything that comes in and goes, I guess.
So you're from this area, you've come home?
Yeah. I was in Pārengarenga for the last 5 years, only just moved back in August last year.
Yeah, what's that like?
I love it. Yeah, can't beat it. It's always good to be back home, eh?
And are you a shareholder here?
Not yet, no. But I think, a lot of the boys here that do work in the bush are shareholders.
Does it make a difference? Like, do you feel like you're more kind of connected to the place, or?
Oh, I'm not too sure for them, but yeah, just for me, knowing that I'm from here, and, my ancestors and everything are from here, so that just makes me feel connected in general, I guess. Yeah.
My name is Michael Wikitera, and I'm the workplace supervisor here at Pārengarenga Incorporation, helping with environmental work, FSC, training, and just helping out with the other guys.
Copy, Dan.
Mike mentioned FSC, well, that's the Forestry Stewardship Council. And this year, Pārengarenga gained certification from the international organisation, which means it's been recognised for the way it's managing things in an eco-friendly and responsible way.
This is an area here as a classic example.
Among the environmental projects, better protection of Lake Wahakari in partnership with local iwi. And we stop on the forestry track for a better view of the lake in the distance.
And so that was a partnership because we understood that riparian area had to be increased because previous to our planting regime, the trees were planted pretty much right on the lake edge. If they could be planted, they were. So there's areas there where you can see that there's still a lot of pampas and weed, and those are the places that were previously planted in pine. And so we've brought that back quite a bit. So I think at least at the minimum we lost over 30 hectares of forestry planted land. We would have been well within our rights to say, 10 metres is all we're going to give. But just, like I said, when you look at some of that regenerating vegetation down there, and tea tree and cabbage trees and all the other smaller natives that we've got there.
Further along the track, though, is a sign of the main reason I've come to Pārengarenga, to check out their plans for the piles and piles of woody offcuts that forests such as this produce.
Those big piles are the reason why, we've got this natural resource of slash that's just ideal for biochar.
Biochar. Put simply, it's a charcoal-like substance made from heating wood in large kilns. It's been hailed as a bit of a wonder product, a kind of black gold, good for improving soil when spread on pasture, sequestering carbon, and even improving animal health when used as a feed supplement. Pārengarenga Incorporation has done some trials, but wants to do more. When this whole biochar trial took off, did you think it was some kind of hocus-pocus thing, or did you know about it before?
I didn't know about it before, but I could see the benefits of it. And we were sort of one of the first to have a crack at it and see if it would work. We had the product there. We had a carbonizer to burn it up in, and the SOP was written by a professional, so it was sort of simple enough to follow, and away we went. We had a small setup that was pretty labour intensive. Come out, cut the wood, poke it in, burn it, shovel it out, put it in a bag and send it down the road, The new ones, they'll come along, you'll pick all that stuff up, you dump it down here in a big area, it'll get picked up, in-fed and dried at the same time it's going in, chipped and then burnt, and then your product's coming in and out. It would have been a 24/7 operation. So
the carbonizers have come a wee way on now, have they?
Well, carbonizers overseas have been way ahead of us, so, and we're just catching up with that bit of technology, but ballpark figures to do a setup in here that would be viable for us, around $8 million.
One of the problems that we have with the slash, is that it takes up a lot of area on the ground in the forest. So that was a good way to get rid of that slash and turn it into a usable product.
And you've still got piles of it back there, so this is for future trials,
well,
if you go ahead.
We've got a 25-year cycle coming up, so
You're going to have plenty of it.
we're going to have plenty of it. But one of the other uses was fertiliser as well. So that was the farm uses $500,000.
The company also farms sheep and beef on land beyond the forest gates. 11,000 sheep and 5,300 head of cattle. In the warm climate, they lamb early to beat others to the Christmas lamb market. I'm with General Manager Barry Bouton.
So from here basically is all to the left and to the right is all our farmlands.
So we've just come over the breast of the hill and rolling green pasture in front of us. Is this all sand country too?
It's loamy sand country, so biochar in particular would add to the soil health considerably in terms of what we can grow and the growth rates of our pastures themselves.
We did see the slash as we took a tour through the forestry block before. We saw the slash piled up in readiness for the biochar, for the burning.
Yes, absolutely. That's almost a stockpile waiting and good to go. So up on the hill over there is our workshop. That's where both our forest and our farm mechanics.
What are we looking at here, Barry?
We're looking at Pārengarenga Harbour, which is where we get our name from, obviously, Pārengarenga Incorporation as an entity. And, the people of the land very much associate their culture is absolutely immersed in the harbour. That's their breadbasket, effectively, at the end of the day, has been historically, and they treasure it. So, part of our brief as an incorporation is to keep the waterways clean, keep the harbour clean, make sure that there's no cattle effluent going into the harbour, and protecting it to the best of our abilities, and exercising that key Māori, value of katiakitanga.
How are you doing that?
We're doing that through riparian fencing in the main. We are doing that through protecting the soils through developing 2 hectare cell blocks, so that we can fully rotate our stock and not destroy the soil, through overuse of cattle in any one area. And just keeping an eye on everything. Biochar once again has got an ability to be able to be a key contributor in that area through filtering out contaminants in the waterways that might otherwise hit the harbour. But that's also part of the research project.
Let's talk about that research project. How long is it going to be going on for?
Indeterminate. It could be for the next 10 years. It's a long-term project that you're looking at. Results aren't available overnight. But as results filter through, it does enable some decisions to be made in terms of pressing a green light for investment purposes or not.
Barry says they've applied to the New Zealand Agricultural Greenhouse Gas Research Centre to do field trials in the next stage of biochar research.
To determine pasture growth rates, hopefully horticultural growth rates, how to fix the soil, what remedial effect it's got on our soils, and a whole bunch of trials.
What can you envisage here in terms of a biochar facility?
Probably be utilising about anything from 7 to 15,000 tonnes per annum of forest waste, mostly slash. It has to be slash, otherwise you're not earning the international carbon credits that are applicable to that. You can't use good wood and expect to be earning environmental payoff benefits. If it's 7,000 tonnes, you'd be looking at that transferring into about 1,600 tonnes of biochar per annum.
And just used on farm here?
Just used on farm, yeah.
Not
Our farm's big enough to be able to take it all. That's not the end game, though. We'd be wanting to put it onto the market, but it's an immature market, as I said, so we've got an ability to apply it, on farm, but hopefully we'd develop, national markets for biochar to be used on, other soil types where the benefit can be maximised.
What happens to slash at the moment?
It gets transferred into methane and put into the air, effectively, it just rots. Ultimately it rots and it turns into methane, which is a bad gas, to be putting into the atmosphere. So putting into biochar lasts like close on to 1,000 years underground. It captures all the baddies and is producing benefits over that extremely long time frame. So it's a negative carbon.
Would you be the first integrated farm forestry operation using biochar in this way?
In New Zealand.
In New Zealand.
Pretty much so. I'm unaware of any other organisation at this point in time utilising. In fact, yes, you could say categorically, probably yes. But internationally, most biochar has actually been used in horticultural applications. There's very, very little academic research that has been done on pasture land. So by extension yes, I imagine it's been done elsewhere in the world, but not an awful, enough of it to be making an overwhelming, data bank of scientific literature.
Can you see this being a big win for on-farm greenhouse gas emissions?
Oh, definitely. Absolutely. It's a game changer. I have never heard anybody say anything negative about biochar. It's only positive stuff that everybody's tremendously excited about its potential to be a game changer for climate change research, if you would.
Barry Bouton, General Manager of Pārengarenga Incorporation. And that story was produced by Sally Round.